Is the NASCAR playoff format inherently flawed? I mean, the short answer there is absolutely yes, right? The elimination playoff format has certainly allowed bad drivers to continue on in the playoffs while good drivers get knocked out. But the big topic right now is whether Martin Truex Jr. should be allowed to basically just float through the playoffs without ever actually doing anything and still have a chance to reach that championship race. It's essentially like giving the Dodgers or the Braves a straight pass to the championship series without having to watch them get their faces beat in over in the division series. It doesn't really make any sense to allow them to just skip over that because they were the best teams in the regular season, right? That's the whole point of the playoff format, and that's essentially what Martin Truex Jr. has done. He's floated through the first round and second round of the playoffs. He's now entering into the third round, back again at the very top of the point standings, right next to William Byron, and he has a shot to put himself into that championship race at Phoenix without having actually done much of anything in this postseason. He started the playoffs with an 18th place finish at Darlington to begin, and then he followed that up with a 36th, 19th, 17th, 18th, and 20th place finishes, and then finds himself into the round of 8 without having had a top 15 finish in the playoffs. When NASCAR created the elimination style format for the playoffs, their whole point was every lap and every race matters. Well, it really doesn't, because Martin Truex Jr. has done nothing of merit in the entire postseason, and now he's going to find himself with a chance to race for that championship at Phoenix if he can manage to get through the next 3 races. Basically took 6 races off, only really has to contend and win one of these races, and then can put himself into the championship race, which makes the format seem flawed. NASCAR wanted to put an emphasis on those regular season points. Martin Truex Jr. goes out there, wins 3 races in the regular season, gets a bunch of stage points, wins the regular season championship, and then he is basically ridden those championship points all the way to where he's at now. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not faulting Martin Truex Jr. and the 19 team for doing what they did. Don't hate the player, hate the game. They're just playing the game that NASCAR set up. But at the end of the day, is this really what they had intended? I've seen some people make comments saying that, Martin Truex Jr. is essentially just doing what you used to do with the old points format, where you could go out, start off really hot in the beginning of the season, middle of the season, and then basically just coast in the second half of the year and still win the championship, which isn't a bad point to make. And that's essentially what he's done here. It's not what NASCAR wanted. I'm perfectly fine with it. It does seem a bit odd, though, to put this much emphasis on winning and performing and then have a guy go out there and not do either of those things in the playoffs. But at the same time, again, he's just playing by their rules. And if they want to make the regular season count that much, then that's what you're going to see is this happen over here. At the same time, people are going to complain that, he didn't go out and win a race in the playoffs, and he's racing for a championship. He could even win the championship without winning a race in the playoffs. Matt Crafton in 2019 in the Truck Series, with the elimination style format, went out and won the championship without winning a single race all year. Absolutely exploited a major flaw in the championship that NASCAR did not ever want to see happen. I mean, the whole reason we have the chase and we have the playoff format is to basically put an emphasis on winning, because Matt Kenseth had to go out there and ruin it for everybody. And I saw somebody make a comment of being like, oh yeah, we wouldn't have to have this if Matt Kenseth didn't win the championship with only winning 1 race. It's totally fine that he won 1 race, because the whole point of the championship was being consistent. And essentially, that's kind of what we're seeing here with Truex. He's consistently mediocre, but that's all he has to do to win this championship. Up until now. We'll see what happens over the next 3 weeks here. But at the same time, your guy that wins the most races every year is not necessarily going to win the championship. 2020, Kevin Harvick won the most races, didn't win the championship. Denny Hamlin won the second most races, didn't win the championship. 1996, even with the old format, Jeff Gordon won 10 races that year. Terry Labonte won 2 races and the championship. That's a flaw in the system if you want to go by what some of these mouth breathers are thinking out here. So there's always going to be flaws in the championship, right? But at the same time, when you have NASCAR out here saying that we need these races to matter, we want them to matter, every lap needs to matter, and you have Martin Truex Jr. going out here and basically being like, none of this matters, dude. I can finish outside the top 15 in every race and still basically make it to the equivalent of the championship series here before going on to the championship race without ever having to really do anything. Honestly, sure, he had to stave off elimination twice, basically had to go out there and just put in, a mediocre run. Never even really had to finish top 10. I mean, he just skirted through the whole playoffs. Again, nothing wrong with it, but it is a flaw in the system. Because essentially, the guy's been ice cold. for 6 straight weeks now, 7 straight weeks if you want to throw Daytona in there as the elimination race. And then he's going to continue racing for a championship when you have other guys that have had pretty good runs throughout the playoffs here, and they're not advancing on because they didn't get those, playoff points in the regular season, which again, they should have got those regular season playoff points. It's how the game's set up. But is this how you want to determine a champion? Obviously, we know that the playoff elimination format championship is flawed, right? Having a winner-take-all one-race championship is a really dumb way to determine a champion. I get it. It's like the Super Bowl. Whatever. MLB, NBA, NHL, they all have a 7-game playoff series because, it shouldn't come down to one game necessarily. And that's essentially what NASCAR's done. They've done the Super Bowl format. They take the NFL and they're like, winner take all, you're now the champion at a racetrack that everybody universally seems to hate, which, again, that's a whole different topic. But it's a poor way to determine a champion. And the elimination style format, like we've said, is a poor way to weed out the haves and the have-nots because you get a guy that has one bad race and it can basically doom his entire championship. Kevin Harvick probably should have won the championship in 2020. He ends up not winning it because of, the playoff elimination format. You have other guys out there. Chase Briscoe last year is a perfect example of a guy that was on the verge of making it to that championship race, basically having done nothing of merit and just surviving, which, again, good for him, right? That's how the playoff was set up. He's just playing by their rules, but it doesn't really give you the best of the best. Honestly, I think that the best form of playoff, if we have to have a playoff in NASCAR, is kind of what they used to do. Basically just start off with 10 races. Whoever has the most points at the end of the 10 races wins the championship. You can still do your regular season playoff points and give a regular season championship to somebody. And they start off. Martin Truex Jr. starts off the playoffs with 36 points. And then, last has 0. So he's got that 36-point advantage. And then it stacks on down from there. But that's the only thing you get. It doesn't reset after every round and take him from the cutoff line all the way back to the top. It also doesn't put so much emphasis on one race. But then again, you're not going to get those dramatic, moments like they've had, before in their elimination format. You don't get the Ross Chastain wall ride at Martinsville if you have this. So there's a lot of pluses and minuses to it. I don't think that Martin Truex Jr. is doing anything wrong. Again, he's just playing the game how it was laid out for him. Unfortunately, the NASCAR elimination style playoff is just inherently flawed from the beginning and a poor way to determine a champion. And I think Martin Truex Jr. is kind of catching the brunt of, people's frustration when really they should just be mad at NASCAR, like always. So let me know in the comments, do you think that the championship is flawed? Are you happy with it? Either way, like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on TikTok at BreakHard, Instagram and Twitter at BreakHardBlog.